Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Jai Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Yashodanandana Bhajana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Bhajana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jai Visvakarma Paramahansa Purujagacharya Astotra the Sri Srimad Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON BBT founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Purujagacharya Astotra the Sri Srimad Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai. Ananta Kokti Vaishnavini Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Kwanto Rashimi Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Lord Vamanadeva Ki Jai. Shri Jiva Goswami Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Thank you. So today being the glorious appearance day of Lord Vamanadeva, we'll hear a little bit about him from the Srimad Bhagavatam. And there's a lot, but we're going to try to end on time and leave some time for reading about Jiva Goswami as well. So let's see. Okay, so I'm going to summarize the story of Vamanadeva. It's quite extensive. It extends over several chapters within the 8th canto. And then I'm going to read one verse that kind of encapsulates Bali Maharaja's greatness, and it's quite substantial about punishment, how we should take punishment from the Lord, and we should see it as His mercy. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So, I studied somewhat up on Lord Vamanadeva, and it's quite a bit. So I'm just going to kind of, as I mentioned, summarize the story and then read some essential verses here about his attitude and why he, although born in a demon family, became a Mahajan. A tremendous transformation. He was a grandson of Prahlad, and he was doing a battle with the demigods, and he was killed. He was killed in the battle, but his spiritual master Shukracharya had this power of bringing him back to life. And so he came back to life. The demons had been killed. The demons and the demigods are always at odds of who's going to rule in the heavenly planets. So Bali Maharaja became that much more devoted to Shukracharya and all the Brahmins, and they became empowered. They're descendants of Bhrigu, all these Brahmins, and by serving the Brahmins and pleasing them, they got tremendous power, and Bali specifically, to lead them against the citadel of the demigods. And it describes there how Indra was enjoying, as he usually is, in Nandananda gardens and his palaces and things. And Bali and all of the demons, they appeared outside the gates, kind of. And the effulgence and the strength that they showed just completely frightened demigods. So the demigods went to Narayan, as they usually do, and he said, now is not the good time for you. The time is against you. They've been empowered by serving the Brahmins. We're going to have to control them. If you can't stay quiet, I'm sorry. And so they all fled. They fled their heavenly abodes, and they went to different parts of the universe. And Mother Aditi, who's the mother of the demigods, especially Indra and others, she was all aggrieved. And so she prayed. Her husband came, Kashyapa Muni, and advised her to perform this sacrifice. I forget, is it 10 days? Payovrata. Payovrata means the sacrifice having to do with milk. And the chief factor is you just live on milk for all these days. And there's all kinds of worship that you do to the different manifestations of God, and perform great austerities. And this gleans the favor of the Lord, and He'll fulfill your desire. Her desire was that her sons would be reinstated, and the whole demigods would be able to come back and then live in the heavenly planets again. So she very carefully performed this sacrifice. And then at the end, Narayan appeared before her, and he explained that you're not going to be able to take back the heavenly kingdom by force of arms, but I'll fulfill your desire in a different way. So he agreed to appear as her son, and that son was his Vamana. Now Vamana means a dwarf, but as soon as I read that word dwarf, I cringe. Because although in English, UK English, which is what Prabhupada learned in the early 20th century, dwarf doesn't have to mean exactly what it means in modern American English, which is distorted by disease and small, you know what I mean? Kind of stunted. It's a negative image when you hear dwarf. But he's known as Vamana means dwarf in the dictionary. So it means a miniature Brahman, very beautiful, perfectly formed, you know, but everything diminutive. So when he appeared, all the gods and they all understood, oh, this is Krishna having appeared, and they all came and they gave certain things, his clothes, his brahmachari dress, and his kamandalu that he was carrying, and very beautiful and influential. And so what he does is he's a brahmachari, you know, obviously a very special one, but he goes to the sacrifice that's being performed by Bali. They're performing a tremendous sacrifice. And so he appears, as it describes, as he starts to appear, you know, the effulgence is very great, and it completely eclipses all the demons. And so he comes there, and he, what you do with brahmacharis, you give bhiksha, you give little, something to eat or some donation. So Bali, although he was a demon, he was trained in all these things, especially to respect the Brahmins. And he was a wonderful brahmachari. And so Shukracharya, however, warned him. Prabhupada tells the story like this, warned him, don't offer him any charity, because he'll take everything from you. And Prabhupada always points out, and then Shukracharya is thinking, then what do I have? I'm being supported by you, and I'll be homeless on the street. So he was also concerned about his own, But Shukracharya means a seminal acharya. You inherited the post. But he was very qualified. Later on, he also became purified. So Bali had a decision to make. This is the very word Bali means gift, means an act of charity, because he's famous for giving everything. I'm giving away the story now, which I think you probably know. So, Shukracharya advised him not to offer something, although he had already promised that he would. And now Bali has a decision to make. Now remember that this Shukracharya had brought him back to life. And so he was very dedicated to him. But he understood that the most important thing is offering, and he saw that this is actually Vishnu. That Shukracharya says, no, this is Vishnu, and he'll take everything. And Bali, although he's a demon, he's the descendant of Bali Maharaja, and so he has tremendous devotional credits, and he's really a great devotee at heart. And so he rejects his spiritual master, which is like super bad normally, And Shukracharya says, I curse you, you'll be bereft of all your possessions and things like that. But Bali, he kept his promise. He had already promised to offer the charity. Now, Vamanadeva, he originally asked for 3 steps of land. And, not only was it insignificant, Bali had everything. He had the whole universe. He said, I'll offer you an island, meaning a planet. I can offer you a planet. You want just 3 steps of land? And so Vamana started preaching to him. He says, if a Brahmin can't be satisfied with a minimal, property, then he's no Brahmin. His Brahminical qualities are bereft. He's lost that. So Bali says, okay, you want 3 steps of land. Now, he'd already rejected Shukracharya. Shukracharya said, don't offer him. And he said, no, I have to, I promised. And he's a great, he's a brahmachari, I have to. And so, but he was so diminutive. He said, well, 3 steps of land is nothing for you. Why don't you take an island or take a planet? He says, no. Okay. So as soon as he formally gives it to him, and formally gives it to him, Vamanadeva starts expanding into the universal form. And there's a whole section describing what he saw in Vamanadev's form. He saw all the gods, and he saw all the planets, and he saw what you usually see in the universal form. And with one step, because he had 3 steps, right? With one step, he covers all the planetary systems. With the second step, he covers the rest of the universe. And it's interesting here, because I was looking for that part where he pierces the universe. Maybe I missed it, but it says here that Brahma had poured water from his kamandala on that upraised foot, which is reaching all the way up to his abode at the top of the universe. And that water became the Ganges. But we read elsewhere how it's water that leaked through, that he pierced the covering. So there's some different Puranas they tell. So then Vamana says, okay, with 2 steps I've covered everything. What else how are you going to satisfy my demand for you promised 3 steps. There's nothing left. So Bali famously said, yes, there's something left. You can put your 3rd step on my head. You see? And by that act, he, became the greatest giver of gifts, and exalted on the level of the Mahajans. So then, that was kind of a trick, and still he was arrested. He was tied up by the ropes of Varuna. So there's a wonderful painting of him standing there, And then who should come on the scene but Bali Maharaja himself, his exalted grandfather. And he couldn't offer up his obeisances, so he's kind of just bowing his head. And then there's a section here I wanted to read, and that's that scene. Now what's going to happen is that all the demons, they are shocked by what happened, and they attack. And many of them are killed, and then eventually they just run away, and they hide themselves just as the demigods did. And so Bali has now been punished, but he's not resentful. And he explains why in these verses, and these are the ones I wanted to chant. Because here this is in 8th Canto, chapter 22, verse 2. And I'm going to read a few of these purports, because it reveals the great, one aspect of his great exalted character. So I'll just listen to the Sanskrit. This is text 2 of chapter 22 of Canto 8. Shri Balaruvacha Yadyuttama shloka bhavanma meritam vacho vyalikam sudavarya manyate karomritam tan nabhavet pralambanam padam tritiyam kurushirshni me nijam. So this is the answer to Vamanadev's question, where can I put my third step? So Bali Maharaj said, O best personality of Godhead, most worshipable for all the demigods, if you think that my promise has become false, I shall certainly rectify matters to make it truthful. I cannot allow my promise to be false. Please, therefore, place your third lotus footstep on my head. And in the purport, Prabhupada says, Bali Maharaj could understand the pretense of Lord Vamanadeva, who had taken the side of the demigods and come before him as a beggar. Although the Lord's purpose was to cheat him, Bali Maharaj took pleasure in understanding how the Lord will cheat his devotee to glorify the devotee's position. It is said that God is good, and this is a fact. Whether he cheats or rewards, he is always good. Bali Maharaj therefore addressed him as Uttama Shloka. Uttama Shloka means he who is glorified in the greatest verses. Your Lordship, he said, you are always praised with the best of selected verses. On behalf of the demigods, you disguised yourself to cheat me, saying that you wanted only 3 paces of land, but later you expanded your body to such an extent that with 2 footsteps you covered the entire universe. Because you were working on behalf of your devotees, you do not regard this as cheating. Never mind, I cannot be considered a devotee. Nonetheless, because although you are the husband of the goddess of fortune, you have come to me to beg. I must satisfy you to the best of my ability. Although you are the husband of goddess of fortune, you've come to me to beg, and therefore I must satisfy you to the best of my ability. So please don't think that I wanted to cheat you. I must fulfill my promise. I still have my body. When I place my body for your satisfaction, please put your third step on my head. Close quote. Since the Lord had covered the entire universe with 2 steps, one might ask how Bali's head could be sufficient for his third step. But Bali Maharaj thought that the possessor of wealth must be greater than the possession. Therefore, although the Lord had taken all his possessions, the head of Bali Maharaj, the possessor, would provide adequate place for the Lord's third step. And now he gives a really great insight into his inner qualities. The fact that he was a demon was just external, obviously. So I'll just read the English. I do not fear, says Bali, I do not fear being deprived of all my possessions, living in hellish life, being arrested for poverty by the ropes of Varuna, or being punished by you, as much as I fear defamation. So he's very concerned about his name and his position in people's eyes. Purport, although Bali fully surrendered to the Lord, he could not tolerate being defamed for cheating a Brahman brahmachari. That's the key. These Brahmins, how you relate to the Brahmins. Being quite alert in regard to his reputation, he thought deeply about how to prevent being defamed. The Lord therefore gave him the good counsel to prevent defamation by offering his head. A Vaishnava does not fear any punishment. Narayana parak sarve nakratashchana bibbiti. Svargapavarganada keshapadulyarta darshanam. This is a famous verse from the 6th canto, that a Narayana para, a devotee of Lord Narayan, who is dedicated wholly and solely, never fears anything. For such a devotee, hell and heaven are the same. Svargapavarganada keshu apitulyarta darshanam. Because in any circumstance, he's always worshipping Krishna. He's always with Krishna, and he feels protected. And we saw that with Prahlad. He was completely unafraid of his father. Here's this delicate little 5-year-old boy, externally delicate. And the most monstrous demon who ever lived in the universe, he'd taken over everything. All the gods were offering obeisances to him. Narada Muni, even as he's telling the story, I was also offering obeisances. And the only ones except Shiva, Brahma, and Vishnu. They didn't have to offer obeisance. But he had conquered everything. massive, powerful, frightening. And Prahlad is just there fearlessly preaching to him. You know, what's the best thing I learned today, Father? Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam. The 9 processes of devotional service. You can imagine how much guts that took to, you know, just be. He was completely unafraid. And his father tried to kill him in so many ways, you know, first by putting him in the hands of his demoniac henchmen, you know, cut him up, Chindi, Chindi, and they came out with the swords and they couldn't attack. He was uninjured. Throw him off a cliff, trample him under elephants, poison him with snakes, drown him, everything they could think of, and nothing worked. He was protected. Now that scared Hiranyakashipu. He got really scared when he saw he couldn't be harmed at all. And even after all of that, he defied his father. Where do you get your strength from? The same place that you do, Father, from the Supreme Personality of God. Where is he? You say he's everywhere. Is he in this pillar? Yes, Father. Boom, he hits the pillar with his fist. Out comes Nrsingadeva. He toys with him for a little while, and then he slices him open. Have you ever seen that picture with the garland of intestines? There's a name for Krishna. You know what it is? Antarmali. Antar means your innards. Wearing a garland of somebody's innards. Sometimes they don't want to put that painting on the wall. You know, we don't have a painting because it's scary for the guests. But that's Nrsingadeva in his most ferocious feature. But there's also that Komala Nrsinga when he's interacting with Prahlad, almost Prahlad, you know. So this is Krishna, just exactly as you relate to him, he rewards you. So, so he much feared defamation. So then here's the verse that I especially wanted to focus on. Pungsang shlagitam manye dundam arhatamarpitam yang mata pita brata suridas chadashantihi. Now this is the same Bali who just conquered the universe, you know, a little while earlier and was enjoying like anything, and all of the demons were taking the position. So now he has a very cogent and accurate view of things. Although a father, mother, brother, or friend may sometimes punish one as a well-wisher, they never punish their subordinate like this. But because you are the most worshipable Lord, I regard the punishment you have given me as most exalted. Punishment, purport. Punishment meted out by the Supreme Personality of God is accepted by the devotee as the greatest mercy. And then Prabhupada quotes this famous verse. Tattenu kampam susamikshamano bundana evatnukatam vipakam ridvagvapube vadadan namaste jivete yo muktipade sadaya bhak. Quote, one who seeks your compassion and thus tolerates all kinds of adverse conditions due to the karma of his past deeds, who engages always in your devotional service with his mind, words, and body, and who always offers obeisance to you, is certainly a bona fide candidate for liberation. Now, Prabhupada focused on this word dayabhak in another purport he gave to this verse, in kind of speaking about it. Dayabhak is used for someone who's set to inherit some property. And it says, all you have to do is stay alive. It says, jiveta yo. Jiveta means live. One who lives in this way and has this attitude is sure to inherit the kingdom of God. Go back to Godhead. Now you can see how tete unukampa. Unukampa means mercy. Susamikshimano, seeing everything as your mercy, both the good and the bad. And realizing that, if I'm suffering something, this is just due a atmakritam. I did it myself. The pakam, this suffering is coming from my own activities. And Krishna is so kind, he's minimizing it. I remember when I first heard this, I don't know if I heard the Sanskrit, but the idea was there from the beginning. We all had stints working in the kitchen, you know, and slicing and cutting up. And you may cut your finger. Don't they have a first aid kit still available, you know? So, wow, I cut my finger, you know. Krishna's so kind. I was set to lose a whole finger. I was set to lose, my arm. But Krishna just gave me a little cut on the finger, and I put some Makura chrome on it or whatever they have now, you know. So Krishna's so kind. And then when good things happen, you know, you fall sick and then you get better and you're stronger than ever. He said, oh, Krishna's so kind. He's giving me more facility to serve him. You see? So in both circumstances, if some of your latent karma comes to you, Krishna's actually overseeing that. That's also Krishna's mercy. He's destroying my false pride, and all kinds of things. In other words, it's favorable for my devotional service, therefore Krishna is showing me great favor. So in every case, you remain favorable to Krishna. Not like those superficial devotees, people religious. They're always worshiping for something material. You go to church, please cure my cancer, please let my son, be able to afford his college, whatever, get into college. A million different things you can pray for. That's right in the Gita. Arto, artati. Either one is distressed or he's in search of something valuable, So what happens when you don't get it? What happens when you still stay poor? What happens if your son dies of disease or something? Your faith is damaged. I prayed. I've been going every day to church, every Sunday without fail, chanting the rosary, whatever, And this happens to me. Where is that God? Prabhupada tells the story of the ladies in Germany during World War II. They had fathers, brothers, sons, and husbands, and male cousins and all kinds of relatives who had to join the army. So they're praying like anything for them to come back, and many of them didn't come back. If they came back, they were crippled or, in other ways. Where is the God? Many became atheists, according to that. So this verse is how a real devotee sees the things that happen, in negative things that happen, which they will, in the material world. Prabhupada says, a devotee knows that so-called punishment by the Lord is only his favor to correct his devotee and bring him to the right path. Therefore, the punishment awarded by the Lord cannot be compared to even the greatest benefit awarded by one's material father, mother, brother, or friend. And just more of Bali's realization here. Since your lordship is indirectly the greatest well-wisher of his demons, this is text 5 of chapter 22, canto 8. Since your lordship is indirectly the greatest well-wisher of even us demons, you act for our best welfare by posing as if our enemy. Because demons like us always aspire for a position of false prestige, by chastising us, you give us the eyes by which we can see the right path. Bali considered the Lord a better friend to the demons than to the demigods. In the material world, the more one gets material possessions, the more he becomes blind to spiritual life. You read chapter 16 of the Bhagavad Gita. Ishvaroham, aham bogi, siddhoham, balavan sukhi. That was one of the first verses I ever memorized, the demon's mantra. I am the Lord. I am the master. I'm the enjoyer. I'm perfect, powerful, and happy. And it goes on, so much wealth that I get, and I'm going to get some more tomorrow. I'll kill this one. I'll make alliances with it. This is the demonic mentality. Very nicely described there. So they need to be cut down. They need to be chastised and become humble. So he's praising Vamanadeva for that. In the material world, the more one gets material possessions, the more he becomes blind to spiritual life. The demigods are devotees of the Lord for the sake of material possessions, because they're called sakama devotees. Indra's a great devotee, but he wants that position. And you know how often he becomes upset because someone may get his position. Some great yogi is meditating, he may get my position. So he sends some apsara to go and seduce him, and he comes, okay, now the danger is over. He's always wondering, And sometimes it goes to his head. In the 6th canon, we read about how he insulted Brihaspati, his spiritual master, by not getting off the Vyasasan. It wasn't Vyasasan, it was a big throne, and all the apsaras are dancing over there, and others are bringing him, food to eat and glorifying him, and so many. And Brihaspati walks in, and he's so intoxicated with this that he doesn't get off the throne to offer his obeisances. Brihaspati turns on his heel and walks out and disappears. Can't find him, and just says, "Oh my God, what have we done? We offended our guru," and he goes out, can't find him. And then the demigods take advantage of that position, and they threaten them, and they have to go to Narayan and pray. So go to the Dichi, get his bones, ask him for his body as a donation. At first, Tadichi is joking with him, "What, are you kidding? I can't give you my body." And then he says, "Of course," because he's detached. He gives him, and imagine, how unclean that is. You have to take someone's bones, turn it into a thunderbolt, as a weapon. So all of this just so that Indra would become invincible. Anyway, it's an incredible story. But my point is that the demigods are there for a reason. It's the reason why they're devotees, but they're sakama devotees. They're not completely pure devotees. So that's being made here. The point: the demigods are devotees of the Lord for the sake of material possessions. But although the demons apparently do not have the Lord on their side, he always acts as their well-wisher by depriving them of their positions of false prestige. By false prestige, one is misguided, so the Supreme Lord takes away their position of false prestige as a special favor. And we know from reading Krishna book how many demons were sent to kill all the babies, and they try to kill Krishna, and they're killed. And the worst one, I always say, the most abominable and scary is Putana. You know, her business is hunting out little babies, killing them, and drinking their blood. Can there be someone more abominable than that? Anyway, but she was the one who was blessed the most, because she offered Krishna her breast to suck, you know, as in the form of a mother. She thought it was a great ruse. I got poison on there, I'll kill him. But she died. But she was so purified, Krishna accepted her as a mother. She becomes a wet nurse in Goloka Vrindavan. Can there be anyone more merciful than that? If someone even threatens to kill us, can we then make friends with them? No, we're scared or angry or hate them. You know, what to speak of someone who attacks us? So Krishna, he's the most merciful. So he's merciful to the demons by chastising them and sometimes killing them personally. Krishna always acts as the demons' well-wisher by depriving them of their positions of false prestige. By false prestige, one is misguided, so the Supreme Lord takes away their position of false prestige as a special favor. Okay. So now he reveals that, you know, here it's like this. This was Bali was used as an example by Srimati Radharani in her song to the bee. This is kind of switching gears a little bit, but it's interesting. That in her different mad talkings, you know the story where Uddhava was sent to Vrindavan to deliver a message to the gopis, and in general to console those who have been in separation from Krishna for so long, who were pining, you know. And so he met with the mother, Yashoda and Nanda. They were constantly crying. And finally he meets with the gopis. They take him to a secluded place because they hear he has a letter for them, you know. So while he's reading that letter to the other gopis, Radharani, who's mad in separation, you know, she sees a bee, and she takes the bee as a messenger from Krishna. And there's a famous song to the bee that she sings. It's one of the Gopi Geets. There's 4 different Gopi Geets in the 10th canto. And she starts berating the bee. You know, you're the unqualified messenger of an unqualified cheating master who, although Bali surrendered everything, he gave himself, you still arrested him and tied him up with these ropes and humiliated him. What kind of behavior is that? She finds different ways in which she can insult Krishna. And what happens is the bee, then, as bees do, they disappear. They went to some other flowers. And after several verses of berating Krishna, thinking that the bee was Krishna's messenger, she became afraid. Oh my God, this bee has gone back to Mathura to relate everything I said to him, to this bee, about Krishna. What's going to happen now? And then the bee appears again and says, oh, my friend, you know, can I give you any gifts? You know, please make yourself comfortable. In other words, she's trying to make friends with the bee so he won't tell Krishna what she said about him. So, but she used this example of how Krishna, sometimes his activities seem to be contrary. Here's this Bali Maharaja who, after all, did keep his promise, gave everything, the whole universe, in charity. That Bali means a gift. And yet you arrested him and sent him down to the lower planets, you know. But as it turned out, yes, he's sent down to the lower planets, but this is a special lower planet called Sutala, which is very like a heavenly planet. And so Bali will rule there, and Vamanadeva is going to be his doorman. God is going to always be able to be seen. I mean, to see the Supreme Lord is not an easy thing. So he'll be able to see Vamanadeva, and he'll be accompanying them. So he's in a greater position. He's in a greater position there in Sutala than he ever was as the ruler of the universe. So he says, your lordship can perform one work to serve many purposes. This is Krishna is known as expert. And consequently, although you've punished me in many ways, I do not feel ashamed of having been arrested by the ropes of Varuna, nor do I feel aggrieved. And this is the last one I'll read. Bali Maharaj appreciated the Lord's mercy, not only upon him, but upon many other demons. Because this mercy is liberally distributed, the Lord is called all-merciful. Bali was indeed a fully surrendered devotee, but even some demons who were not at all devotees, but merely enemies of the Lord, attained the same exalted position achieved by many mystic yogis. Thus, Bali Maharaj could understand that the Lord had some hidden purpose in punishing him. Consequently, he was neither unhappy nor ashamed because of the awkward position in which he had been put by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, this account of Bali Maharaj and Vamanadeva, there's so many lessons can be drawn. And one thing we can see is the importance of keeping promises. You know, vows, when you take vows, initiation, and you vow to follow the four regular principles, chant 16 rounds. And there's so many other commitments that we make to be devotees. And it's important to realize the solemnity of that. That's why it's done in the presence of the deities and the devotees and the sacred fire and all the mantras and things like that, to try to impress upon us the gravity of the whole thing. How in this world where cheating is kind of understood to be just everyone does it, you know. As soon as you buy something, you know, yeah, they're overcharging, you know, it's a whole thing. And it's everywhere. But Krishna consciousness is meant to be an island of purity, of countervailing force with that. And it always begins with ourselves. And so when we make a commitment to the spiritual master and to Krishna and to the assembled devotees, it's very important we take it very seriously and we observe it. And this is one of the reasons Bali is so exalted. Even though it was like everything, you know, he lost everything. He lost his own personal freedom, what to speak of all the universe and all of his influence and everything. He thought that was more important to keep that promise to the Lord than to maintain these things. And even though, you know, his position went from materially the highest that could be, running the universe, to the lowest, as having nothing really and being a slave to the Lord. But that's the best position to be in. So I just wanted to deal with some of those. And so Bali became, by giving that third step on his head, he became one of the Mahajans. There's only 12 who embodies the essence of Krishna consciousness and can transmit the truth, what real Dharma is. That's all in the 6th canto describing. So any comments or questions on Bali Maharaj? We have a few minutes.
Hare Krishna.
One moment, Vijay. We have some local comments here.
Yes, I can wait. No problem.
So you mentioned Shukracharya getting
Yeah.
purified later. Do you think you could comment on that a little more?
You know, I didn't review it here, but my understanding is, and first of all, that I don't think Krishna uses the name, but it's the same personality in the 10th chapter, when he's giving examples of you know, perfect examples of different categories. You know, the ocean, of the bodies of water on the ocean, like that. That of you know, exalted acharya is something. I am Shukracharya, because he became purified by this. He also surrendered ultimately and saw the great position of his disciple. You know,
And Shukracharya and Brihaspati, they're same. That's what you're saying?
no.
Well, they're not same.
No. The demon's main acharya is Bhrigu Muni, and for the demigods, Brihaspati.
Okay.
But Shukracharya was their personal guru, and they followed his instructions, and of course he saved Bali's life, revived him, so he naturally felt indebted. But it was all simply setting up this pastime, when Vamanadeva will take everything, exalt Bali, and then I'll look it up. But Shukracharya also became surrendered after some time. Go ahead.
You were describing the demigods. Their mood of devotion is sakama.
Sakama. Sakama means with some desire.
So that sa just means with. And then
Yes.
it's kama.
Yeah, not sa, but sa. You get that.
Sa,
Sa
kama.
means with.
So
Sa means
with
sa.
kama. So they have a lot of kama. So they show material desire.
They have material desires, but at the same time, they're devotees. You know, they're performing very important functions for Krishna. It came up, I heard a lecture recently by Prabhupada, I keep hearing it, where the point was made by Prabhupada that Haridas Thakur is in a more exalted position than even Lord Brahma. Even he's known as Brahma Haridas, as partially incarnation of Haridas, because he's teaching. By his chanting, he's teaching the Yuga Dharma, and Brahma is, of course, the repository of all the Vedas. He teaches Narada, so to that they share that. But Haridas had absolutely no, tinge of material desire, whereas Brahma did sometimes. It's not disqualifying, but there's a reason why he's Brahma. 311 trillion, 40 billion years, long time, and he feels that he's the controller of the universe to some degree. But he's still and especially our Brahma is very exalted. There's no question.
Because it seems like in terms of going back to Godhead, our position as humans on this earth is almost better than. They have so much power and responsibility.
Exactly. There's a wonderful verse in the 11th canto describing this Kali Yuga. We should always remember this is a very special Kali Yuga. This is the Kali Yuga in which Krishna appeared personally. Out of so many Kali Yugas in the day of Brahma. The day of Brahma is over 8 billion years, 24 hours. So, out of one of those little Chatur Yugas that occur, and there's 1,000 in each day, Krishna himself appears once in a day of Brahma. And when he appears, the following Kali Yuga, he comes as Lord Chaitanya. So therefore, in the 11th canto, when one of the 9 Yogendras is explaining the different avatars, and he comes to this key verse for us, Krishna Varnam Trisha Krishnam Sango Pangasta Parshadam Yagyar Sankatana Praya Janti Sumeda said, describing the Yuga avatar of this Yuga. And Krishna Varnam means different things. Krishna Varnaka means that he's in the category of Krishna, or it can mean he's always chanting the syllables Krishna, Krishna, because Varna can be syllables. But his complexion is golden, Trisha Krishna. And he appears with his Saanga, Upanga, Astaparshadam, with his limbs, his very intimate devotees, Nityananda and others, and Ramananda Roy, and those who are a little less intimate, Upa-angas, but still very important. And his Parshadas, other devotees, part of his entourage. And his weapons, what weapons does Lord Chaitanya have in his hands? Apparently none, right? But the holy name is the greatest weapon. Not to kill the demons, but to kill the demonic mentality in everyone. Just 1 second. The Kaling Sabaji Antyaya Guna Gyasavabhagavad. A few verses later, the great quality of this Kali Yuga is mentioned. That the demigods are hoping to take birth in this Kali Yuga. And those who know, in general, who are Aryans, who know the value of things, they worship this Kali Yuga because just in this Kali Yuga, just by performing Sankirtan, coming together and chanting the holy name of Krishna, you can achieve all the goals of the soul. Istvarta Labhite. So this is we're very fortunate. Vijay, Prabhu? Local Vijay, then we'll have remote Vijay.
So in the other 999 Kali Yugas, they don't have the chanting of Hare Krishna. They don't get a Bhagavad Krishna. Wasn't there. They didn't get a Bhagavad Gita. No Srimad Bhagavatam.
I have to study that list. The chanting of the holy name is always there, but Lord Chaitanya's special manifestation of it, and the giving of prema freely to everyone just by chanting, being drawn up into the chanting, and being willing to, take it to its end point of purification is not there. This is where Sankirtan is emphasized to exclusion of everything else. Otherwise, it's not that emphasized, featured.
Yeah, but they also no Krishna wasn't there in that. They didn't get the Bhagavad Gita or Srimad Bhagavatam or.
As far as I know, it's not. It's a whole different ballgame.
Wow.
If he doesn't appear, where's the battle of Kurukshetra? It's like, forget about the lottery. This is like 1 million lotteries just being alive at this time. It's yesterday, comparatively speaking, that Lord Chaitanya is here. Maybe a day and a half when Krishna was here. We're so fortunate. We should take advantage of the great fortune and fully immerse ourselves in Sankirtan movement and go back to guidance. Vijay Krishna, you're on.
Thank you very much, Dravida Prabhu, my humble obeisances. Prabhu, and thank you for your wonderful class. Prabhu, related to this pastime, we see Bali Maharaj being the king of demons, Bali Maharaj being instructed by his spiritual master, Shukracharya, who is saying to him, do not go for saying yes to this Brahmana dwarf because he's a cheater, he's trying to defeat the demons. Yeah. And we also see, obviously, that this pastime happens because of the fighting between demons and demigods. So my question is, why, in what exact moment the change of heart in the heart of Bali Maharaj happens in order for him to reject his spiritual master and go for surrendering to Lord Vamanadeva in the following way? Oh, you need a third step to place. I give you my own head. So the exact moment that we see that Bali Maharaj changes his heart, what is the exact moment?
Well, the thing is, Bali is a complex figure because he's really a devotee inside, you know. He's kind of playing as a demon. I mean, his essential nature is that he's a devotee. He's an exalted grandson of Prahlad. I mean, we have the other case, who's not quite as spectacular, Banasura. He was also a descendant, I think a grandson, not a son, not a direct descendant, or a great-grand. Anyway, and he was also blessed by not being killed. He was chastised, lost 998 arms, I think, or maybe they leave him 4. I forget if he left 4 or 2. He had 1,000 arms. You know the story. But he wasn't killed. And after all, his daughter married Aniruddha, right? Who was one of Krishna's sons or grandsons. Yeah. So he was also blessed, but not like Bali. Bali was especially exalted. And I think that we should figure that he was kind of caught up in the whole role of a demon and leading this army, and especially because he was saved by Shukracharya. And he was successful. He took over the whole kingdom. But he still understood when Vamana appeared, and it's the way it's described, he's so spectacular. You know, it's like the sun rising when he starts walking toward that sacrifice. Just this little boy, diminutive, you know, but he's dressed, you know, his wonderful clothes, and he's effulgent like anything, and completely diminishing the influence of the demons that were performing his fabulous sacrifice. So and Bali was very much steeped, just like, you know, Jarasan had some of that, where he knows to respect the Brahmins, you know, and therefore they were dressed as Brahmins, you know. When Krishna and Bhima and Arjuna appeared there, so that he would respect them. If he was a Kshatriya, he immediately wants to fight, you know. So this, but this wasn't he wasn't dressed up as a Brahmin. He really was the Lord of all the Brahmins. He could see that he was God, and so Bali wanted to do the right thing, which is to offer some gift, you know, to offer some charity. And his whole devotional nature came out at that point. I would say that the turning point was when he respected and received Vamanadeva in the proper way. Because, you know, so many demons, they immediately become enraged when they see Krishna has killed their master. How many times do we see that in the Vrindavan Leela? Dhenukasura. Of course, the donkey demons, you can't be that smart, you know. So they lose there's a whole bunch of them. The Prabhupada says, Dhenukasura and his associates, you know, there's a whole bunch of donkeys. So Dhenukasura was killed. So if they were even half smart, they would run away, you know, because, no, we're going to avenge, you know, so they all get killed. And it happens again and again. And the wrestlers, attack after Krishna kills Chanura and Mushtaka is killed by Balaram. They all attack, and the main wrestlers all get killed. You know? So, but in this case, he's not a demon in the sense that he regards the Lord as his arch enemy. He's really a devotee with a little demon covering. You know, he's acting, and that's torn away by this pastime. And so he reveals that to the point of disobeying his spiritual master, who condemns him to lose everything because he's disobeying him. And the whole point, he never deviated. No, I promise, I must give it. I must give the charity. You know, and the only thing I have left is my head, so you take my head. So that's the turning point, really, is that he reveals his real devotional nature. And he decides to receive him very respectfully and offer him charity. That's what I see anyway, where, you know, and that he stuck to it despite anything, being humiliated and, you know, everything taken. And so he's the representative of Atma Nivedana, which is the ninth of the different processes. Atma Nivedana means surrendering everything. You know, that's a very high position, and he's the exemplar of it. So he's. We should also try to come to that point of being a kinshana. You have to be niskinshana, really feeling I own nothing. Whatever I have for the service of the Lord, that's just in my care, but it really belongs to Krishna, including my body. That's the whole idea of Rishikena Rishikesha Sevanam. That these senses I have, even though they're demanding sense gratification in so many ways, no, I'm going to use them in the service of Krishna. And if you actually do that, then you can become very purified and advanced. Vijay, is that all right?
Oh, better than all right. Wonderful answer to my question. Thank you very much, Prabhu.
Haribol. So it's getting late. I have to read. You know, we're going to read about Jiva Goswami. You know, sorry. Okay, so I have a little something here. From the famous book, The Samadhis of Vrindavan. Appearing as the nephew of Sri Rupa and Sanatana Goswamis, Sri Jiva Goswami displayed all the charming features of a Mahapurush, divine person. He had lotus eyes, a high nose and forehead, broad chest, long arms, and a radiant golden body. In his boyhood, he made a deity of Krishna and Balaram. Expressing his pure devotion, he would often cry while worshipping them. After offering clothes, chandan, sandalwood paste, flowers, ornaments, and tasty sweets to Krishna and Balaram, he would take some and give Mahaprasadam to his playmates. From the beginning, Jiva showed his kindness to other Jivas, living entities. Jiva was so much attached to Krishna and Balaram that at bedtime he would embrace his deities and fall asleep. His parents thought he was only playing, but the villagers rejoiced to see Jiva's love for Krishna and Balaram. In school, he quickly mastered Sanskrit grammar, poetry, logic, and philosophy. Srimad Bhagavatam gave life to his life. Krishna Katha filled him with happiness. No one dared to speak to him about anything but Krishna. He toured Navadvip Dham with Sri Nityananda Prabhu, studied Sanskrit in Banaras, and then resided in Vrindavan. After humbly serving Sri Rupa Goswami by washing his feet, preparing his manuscripts, and editing his books, he received Diksha. Once the aging Vaishnav Vallabhacharya gave critical advice to Sri Rupa Goswami on his writing. Although much younger than the venerable Vallabha, Sri Jiva brazenly spoke in defense of his guru. I think this was the incident where he got a certificate that I was defeated. And Rupa didn't want to be bothered. He was writing all his books. So Jiva brazenly spoke in defense of his guru, and he defeated Vallabha. Sri Rupa Goswami scolded Sri Jiva, telling him to leave Vrindavan, meaning that, oh, you showed pride. You know, you should have given a certificate to him. Living in an abandoned crocodile hole in Nandaghat, Sri Jiva Goswami began fasting. He subsisted on wheat flour, which he begged, mixed with the Yamuna water. Wow, that's really simple. Seeing his strict self-denial, Sanatana Goswami brought him back to the service of Rupa Goswami. Srila Prabhupada once commented on this guru-disciple pastime. Sri Rupa Goswami cast out Jiva Goswami to teach us, the devotees of today, a lesson. It was not done to teach or punish Jiva Goswami, who was a perfectly liberated, eternal associate of Krishna. Rupa Goswami sent Jiva out of Vrindavan to teach all Jivas what he wrote in Upadeshamrita. Vacho vegam manasak kroda vegam jiva vegam. At all times a devotee should control his tongue, his speech, and always remain humble. Trinadapi sunichena. After the disappearance of Rupa and Sanatan, Jiva became the Gaudiya Sampradaya Acharya, means he's the guide for all the Vaishnavas in Navadvip, Vrindavan, Jagannath Puri, etc. Although he was the undisputed leader, he always acted as a humble servant of all the Jivas, living entities. When Bengali Vaishnavas visited Vrindavan, he would lovingly receive them, arrange for prasadam and comfortable rooms, and even guide them on Brajamandala Parikram. A super excellent Sanskrit scholar, Jiva Goswami would compose Sanskrit verses in his mind and write them down without changing anything. Wow. Write them down means he used a metal stylus to permanently etch them in palm leaves. This inscription method left no room for erasing, editing, rewriting, or running a spell check. Yet each verse was a priceless gem of perfect meter, rhythm, poetry, and meaning. I'm going to give you a sample at the end. He wrote some songs in the Gopal Champu. He was the greatest philosopher in all of Indian history. Contemporary Sanskritists call him the greatest scholar who ever lived. Okay, it goes on, and we don't have time. But it gives some list of his books, some of which are, of course, the Shat Sandarbhas. That means 6 philosophical treatises. Shat means 6. Sandarbhas is philosophical treatises, beginning with Tattva Sandarbha, which I had the great honor of working on, which establishes the Srimad Bhagavatam as the ultimate pramana, and which are really philosophical foundations of our Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya. And he also wrote other books, the most formidable of which, according to Krishna's Kaviraj, is Gopal Champu, which I have a translation of, Sukushagrada translated. Gopal Champu expands on the pastimes of Krishna in Vrindavan and Dwarka and Mayapur. You realize that the Bhagavatam is kind of an outline, you're getting an idea, but he expands on it in so many ways, very delightful ways. So here's a little sample. We'll end with this, a song he wrote describing when Krishna and Balaram come back from the pastime of killing Dhenukasura and the other donkey demons. And they come back and Mother Yashoda greets them and what she does there. And just try to grok the Sanskrit, the sounds. You'll see how incredible it is. This is the refrain to the song. It's a very short song. I'll just give you the Harina Harina Sahatapadalina Rajani Mukamana Janani Ladatamittikalitam Jitakalina. So Harina, that's Hari, that's Krishna. Halina is a name for Balaram, who carries the plow. And Ripudalina. Ripudalina means he who tears apart. It's not the Ripu part. Ripu part is the enemies. Dalina is the ripping. He who tears apart his enemies. This is describing Balaram. So Rajani Mukam, when the face of night came, the face of night is the evening time, very attractive part of the day. So Krishna and Balaram come back at home and they go into their mother Yashoda. And Rajani Mukam anu Janani Ladanam, the Janani, the mother Yashoda, she's pampering them in various ways. And that's described in the rest of the song. Janani Mukam Janani Ladan Matikalitam Jitakalina. Very expertly pampering them, giving food and so forth. And Jita Kalina means Krishna, who defeats all of our sinful reactions and destroys them. And then it goes on to describe how she wipes them down, marginum, because they've been out all day. And she then gives them a bath, of course, puts on tilak and dresses them in the night clothes, And then the next verse describes how she's prepared a whole feast and she feeds them. And gives them a guru scent, and then looks at them and talks with them very nicely and looks at their faces. And then some of their intimate friends are peeking in the door, and she invites them in, and she does the same services for them, and they have a nice sleepover, and all of his intimate friends are there for Krishna and Balaram. And that's just one of many songs and descriptions in there. But his scholarship is just unmatched, and we're so fortunate to be in the same sampradaya. So that's our presentation this morning. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hari Hari Bol. Sorry I went over time.